You didn't ruin the family. The family just needed someone to blame. And somewhere between childhood and the person you are right now, you started to believe those were the same thing. Think about that for a second. Because most people never do. They carry the weight their family placed on them so early, so consistently, that eventually they stopped asking, wait, is this actually mine? Here's what I know about family dynamics that most psychology textbooks won't say directly. Every family has a secret. A wound they won't name. A truth nobody will say out loud over dinner. And that wound needs somewhere to live. It needs a container. It needs a face. And sometimes, that face becomes yours. Not because you were the weakest. Not because you deserved it. But because you were the one brave enough, or sensitive enough, to feel what everyone else was pretending didn't exist. That's the scapegoat. And if you've ever felt like the black sheep, the difficult one, the one who always seemed to attract the family's frustration for reasons you could never fully explain, then stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you will change the way you understand your entire childhood. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Families are not just collections of people who love each other. They are systems. They operate like organisms, driven by one invisible, almost biological impulse. Stability. Even when that stability is completely dysfunctional. Even when it costs someone everything. Psychologists call it homeostasis. The family's need to maintain its own emotional equilibrium. To keep the surface calm, even when everything underneath is fracturing. And the way most families do this, without ever consciously deciding to, is by redirecting all that internal pressure toward one person. The scapegoat becomes the family's pressure valve. Not a person anymore. A function. When the father's shame needs somewhere to land, it lands on you. When the mother's anxiety needs a target, it finds you. When the marriage is struggling, when the finances are tight, when the unspoken resentments between parents become unbearable, you become the explanation. If it weren't for them, they always cause problems. Why can't they just be normal? And here's the part that breaks my heart every time I think about it. You heard those words so young. At an age when you had no ability to question them. No framework to hold them at arm's length and say, this is their story, not mine. So you absorbed them. You built an identity around being the problem. And then you carried that identity out of the house, into school, into friendships, into every relationship that followed. Bracing. Always bracing. For the moment someone finally confirms what your family already decided about you. But here's the question I want to leave burning in your mind right now. What if the very reason you were chosen was never your weakness? What if it was something else entirely? Drop a comment if you've ever felt like the one who always got blamed. I want to know how many of us are watching this right now. Here's something that will rearrange the way you see yourself. The scapegoat is almost never the most broken member of the family. They're usually the most aware. Think about what awareness actually means in a dysfunctional household. It means you felt the tension before anyone acknowledged it. You noticed the shift in the room when a certain topic came up. You sensed when love was being withdrawn, even when everyone's face said everything was fine. That level of perception isn't ordinary. But in a family that depends on denial to survive, perception is dangerous. Because the moment someone starts seeing clearly, the whole carefully constructed illusion is at risk. And so the family does what systems do when they feel threatened. They discredit the threat. They label it. They make the one who sees too much into the one who is too much. Dramatic. Difficult. Sensitive. Problematic. Sound familiar? Psychologists have a term for what happens next: internalized blame. It's the process by which repeated external accusation slowly becomes internal belief. You don't just get told you're the problem. You start living like you are. You start filtering every experience through that lens. You succeed at something, and immediately wait for it to be taken away. Someone is kind to you, and you search for their hidden motive. You feel happy, and something underneath whispers this won't last. That's not pessimism. That's conditioning. That's what happens when a child's nervous system spends years in an environment where love was inconsistent, and blame was the most reliable form of attention they received. Because here's the brutal truth about scapegoating that nobody says out loud. Negative attention is still attention. And for a child who is otherwise invisible, being blamed at least means being seen. So the nervous system makes an unconscious bargain. It learns to tolerate the pain. It learns to expect it. It learns to move through the world already flinching, waiting for the next accusation, the next disappointment, the next confirmation of a story it was handed before it was old enough to refuse it. And that flinch doesn't disappear when you leave home. It travels with you. Into the workplace where you over-explain every decision before anyone questions it. Into friendships where you apologize for taking up space. Into relationships where you quietly shrink yourself, not because your partner asked you to, but because some older, deeper part of you believes that being smaller makes you safer to love. Have you ever caught yourself doing that? Apologizing for things that weren't your fault. Making yourself smaller in rooms where you had every right to take up space. That's the scapegoat wound living in your adult body. But here's where this story turns. Because buried inside all of that pain, inside every year of being misunderstood, blamed, and exiled, something was quietly being forged. Something most people in that family will never develop. I'll show you exactly what that is next. Here's the paradox nobody prepares you for. The role that was meant to break you is the exact same role that built you. Not because suffering is romantic. Not because pain is a gift you should be grateful for. But because of what exile does to a person when they survive it. When you spend years being cast out, blamed, misunderstood, you're forced inward. You're forced to build an interior life that nobody can touch. A sense of self that doesn't depend on the family's approval to exist. And that is quietly revolutionary. Because most people never develop that. Most people spend their entire lives outsourcing their self-worth to whoever is standing in front of them. Their confidence rises and falls based on whether they're approved of, included, celebrated. The scapegoat learns early that approval was never coming. And so they learn, eventually, painfully, to stop waiting for it. That's not a small thing. That's the foundation of genuine resilience. The kind that isn't performed for an audience. The kind that exists in the quiet moments when no one is watching and you choose yourself anyway. The kind that gets forged not in comfort, but in the specific, relentless discomfort of never quite belonging to the people who were supposed to claim you. Research on family systems consistently finds that the scapegoat is disproportionately likely to be the cycle breaker. The one who seeks therapy first. The one who asks the uncomfortable questions. The one who refuses to pass the family's unprocessed pain forward into the next generation. Think about what that means. The person blamed for everything becomes the one who transforms everything. But that transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires one specific moment. A moment that feels small but changes everything permanently. It's the moment you realize the blame was never about you. It was projection. It was displacement. It was a family's collective inability to face its own shadow, and their unconscious decision to hand that shadow to the one person sensitive enough to carry it. You weren't chosen because you were the weakest. You were chosen because you were the one who could feel what everyone else refused to. You carried what was never yours to carry. And you can put it down. Not through confrontation. Not through waiting for an apology that may never come. Not through trying one more time to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. But through the quiet internal decision to stop organizing your life around a story someone else wrote about you before you were old enough to hold a pen. That's where healing actually begins. Not in the dramatic moment. In the ordinary ones. When you catch yourself over-apologizing and stop mid-sentence. When you feel yourself shrinking in a room and take up space anyway. When someone offers you love without conditions, and you let yourself receive it without immediately searching for the hidden cost. Each one of those moments is a rewrite. And they accumulate. Slowly. Quietly. Until one day you realize the story running in the background of your mind has changed. Until the first instinct is no longer "I must be the problem," but something steadier. Something that finally sounds like truth. Here's what I want you to carry after this. You were never the problem. You were the proof that something in that family needed healing. You were honest enough to feel it, rare enough to survive it, and powerful enough to transform it. The scapegoat doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be exactly where the real one begins. If this reached something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly the kind of person who just watched this all the way to the end.